come from an interracial family, which I like to highlight because this is not just an African issue, it's a global issue, it's a multiracial issue, and it's happening whether we want to acknowledge it or not. My father is Maltese Australian, and my mother South African, and I was adopted from infancy, so I have a whole Maltese, European ethnic part of the family, and then there's a whole South African side of myself. I highlight that because this doesn't discriminate, nor does it choose, and nor does it only happen to certain people. My grandmother was a victim and is now a survivor. She left. My mother, I grew up in a childhood thinking it was normal when parents fight, that as the eldest you get in between your parents and have to, prevent your mum from getting punched and throttled, etc. I came to learn as I went to school, etc., but that's not necessarily the case, which I still find it hard to sort of intellectualize and be able to explain to people how when you've grown up on a dysfunctional upbringing thinking that dysfunction is normal, and then finding out from your peers, etc., as the popular kid at school, and I like to make all these friends, etc., and you go, oh, hang on, your parents don't fight like that? So, it does something. So I grew up having this taboo secret and a whole part of me that I wasn't able to share with my close friends and family members, etc., because I was told what happens behind these closed doors stays here, and you will not bring shame upon your family by telling our business. So that taboo obviously grows in infestation, and it blackens your heart, it blackens your mind, and you don't understand how, where there seems no escape, but this is going on where you're supposed to feel safe, you're supposed to feel happy, and robs you of a childhood, really. So in 2003, we moved from South Africa to Australia. My mum still lives back there. And in 2006, I had a 1.5-year-old. I'm a young single mum. And I had been speaking of the different types of abuse. Majority of the time, my mum was being beaten, and I thought that was the wrong part. What I didn't understand at the time was what was being said to her and what was being said to us as a result was also actually abuse. So I moved to Australia, and I'm told that I'm no good, no one will ever love me, and my self-worth, I didn't know what self-worth was because I didn't have any, and this is the conditioning that I believed. So naturally, when at 16 years old I come home and I get the life beaten out of me with my 1.5-year-old daughter in my arms, I go to sleep that night. I didn't sleep, I left that morning, so I've been out of home since I was 16. 30, oh my God, I almost said 29, I'm 30. So I've been out of home since I was 16, not because I wanted to, but because I had to for the sake of myself and my daughter's safety. I moved from home to home, to couch, but I was still expected to go to school and get good grades, and that's the conditioning I carried on for myself. Not surprisingly, I got into an abusive relationship, the first relationship I got into, because I have minimal self-worth, and I believe I'm not worth of loving. So naturally, when someone starts to depict the behaviors that seem so natural to you, consciously you go, oh, I will never be in a relationship that was that. But when they do it and it's so normal and it's so ingrained into you, that's what happened. So that was the third cycle. I was then in an abusive relationship myself, which went on for a number of years, until my daughter once witnessed me being throttled and beaten. And when your then 3-year-old comes up to you and asks if you were naughty because you got a smack, that kind of, that sort of is a huge slap in the face for you to go, okay, that was just, I could, at that moment in time, I literally could see her being me in 15 years, and I thought, I am either going to die here, or this is going to be her story as well. This is going to be her narrative, and I can't have that. Talking about the lack of resources, I'm a single mom, I'm going to school, I've got no money. Real estate agents, pretend as they may that they give everyone else a fair go, they don't. I didn't have housing. I was living on couch to couch with the child, and yeah, it was hard. I'm lucky in that I was able to link up with a couple of youth service organizations, and I don't know, there was a bigger power at play, because that part of my life is quite a blur as to how I even got housing and how I even got, to a place where I was able to get regular counselling that I didn't have to pay for. But it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I say this because the different people that have come up on this stage have, are successful women or women from different cultural backgrounds. And in my case, it's a narrative that I grew up with that I believed to be true. So understanding and acknowledging that, okay, this isn't normal. I do not have the tools to be able to have a functional upbringing for my child, so that's something I need to go out and seek. So it is possible to eventually lead a functional life that is thriving, that is happy, with great self-worth. But I think the highlight needs to be understanding that when you don't have those resources, you need to go find those resources. So there are a number of organizations, there's not enough, but it is possible to go out there and find them. Counseling, financial advice, housing advice, etc. It is something that's possible. The decision has to be made with you. It's the hardest thing you will ever have to do, and I stand here as a survivor today, but that's still a decision I make on a daily basis, because it's something you have to work on daily to say, I still choose to love myself enough to never go down that path again. So whilst I come from 3 cycles of domestic violence, the cycle has been broken. I chose to break the cycle with me, and that is not going to be my daughter's narrative. So I wanted to highlight that that is possible, and I speak so that I can not only share my story, which inevitably gives others the permission to share it, because so often we think that's just happening behind closed doors and just to you. It's not just to you. It doesn't pick a person or a race or a certain type of person or whatever it is. So acknowledging that is the first step. Educating. My daughter understands what emotional intelligence is. She understands that she deserves to feel safe. She deserves to feel wanted. There is a self-worth and a standard with which she will never go below for someone else's love, because she is a whole human being herself, who will then go on to form something with another whole human being. And last but not least, obviously, you have to understanding we all have had trauma, and it is our decision at the end of the day to rewrite that wheel with the right tools. So Tinashe, it's an honor to be able to stand here in support of you. And, the one thing that I just find impeccably amazing, and with the tone that was alluded to, that you write to in the book, is that, you were bent but never broken. And I think that it's incredibly, more of it needs to happen. It's why I do what I do. It's why a lot of these women do what they do. And it's why we implore more people to speak out and reach out, because so many people feel when they're at that bending point and incredibly close to breaking, it is possible not to break, but not only that, but you can rebuild and be better than you were before. So thank you so much for having us, and for writing this down and being able to have a point of reference and give other people permission to then hopefully do the same as you've done. Thank you.